news coming in. The latest is that Rahul Gandhi has tweeted on Hindi Diwas saying that language is made of emotion. All languages are beautiful and their mutual synergy reflects the diversity and culture of our country. That's what Rahul Gandhi has to say. For more details, let's quickly go across to our senior political editor, Pallavi Ghosh, on the phone line. Pallavi, I'll say that the tone and tenor has been quite diplomatic, but of course, he's lending his support to the likes of Kumaraswamy by stating about how Hindi is dividing. On the other hand, we of course have the BJP stating that Hindi is the crucial, much needed link language for the country.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go that far as what Kumaraswamy has said because, also being a national level politician, he can't afford to speak out against Hindi. But it's interesting and pertinent that he's saying this as he crisscrosses through the southern states, Tamil Nadu and now Kerala, and after that, of course, Karnataka. And over there, the common point often has been against BJP and northern politics, what they talk about imposition of the northern culture and language, which is Hindi, on southern people. And in that sense, what I think he's in a veiled way trying to make the point that while it may be Hindi Diwas, you cannot force non-Hindi speaking people, for example, in the south or in the east, to speak a language like Hindi if they're not well versed in it, and therefore we should respect all languages.
Also, what do you make of the timing of his tweet, considering he is on a Bharat Jodo Yatra, of course, beginning with southern India?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. I mean, it's pertinent. He says it while he travels to south. I mean, Tamil Nadu, we know, have often, the whole genesis of AIADMK, DMK has been on what they call the imposition of northern politics over Dravidian culture. And in fact, one of the strongest words has often come in from, say, an AIADMK, more particularly the DMK, MK Stalin recently. And of course, Kumaraswamy, where again Karnataka is heading for election soon. So he understands, I guess, that in South, you cannot be seen as supporting a Hindi language used totally across the country. And hence his tweet where he says every language is beautiful and therefore every Indian language needs to be respected.
Absolutely. And how do you think this is going to pan out for the BJP at a time when Karnataka is all set to face assembly elections in the coming year?
Well, I mean, it's a catch-22 situation. If you remember, the Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, had stirred a controversy when he had spoken about need to speak Hindi, even in down south. And at that point of time, it had evoked very, very strong reactions from even the AIADMK and the DMK as well, and many of the other southern states. In Kerala, Karnataka, of course, they have a government there. But in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, where the BJP wants to make massive inroads, even the BJP understands that talking about imposition of Hindi in the southern states may not actually help them reap political dividends.
And the other discrepancy that stands out in this entire controversy is the fact that Kumaraswamy said that this is a wastage of national resources. At the same time, we've had critics of the BJP also state that why not have a pro-Kannada Diwas at the same time?
It's actually a catch-22 situation because, while at the same time you talk about the Hindi language, which is universal in the sense of, across India and pan-India, it's a working language. I mean, when you have work, you either speak in English or Hindi, and the argument which has been pushed is English is an alien language. It's not genetically indigenous, and therefore Hindi is something which is a Rashtra Bhasha.
And, Pallavi, interestingly, as trivial as it may sound, the entire controversy, the fact is that this is going to perhaps hold weight, especially in the upcoming elections, taking into consideration we've seen this debate span out of politics all over to Indian cinema as well, with actors both from North and South having different opinions.
I mean, not trivial at all, Ridhima. I mean, there are southern actors who have this disdain for North in the Bollywood cinema. I mean, I remember Vijay Babu's controversy when he said Hindi cinema cannot afford me. This has always been this perennial language, and as we see this divide fading with lots of southern films, for example, becoming popular and not only popular, doing extremely well, at times overshadowing Bollywood cinema as well. I think it's just given up this stirred up yet another debate on whether Hindi can only be considered to be a cowbelt or a northern India kind of a language. Isn't it something which everyone can learn? And there's no harm in learning a second language, especially people if down south need to come to north and also do business.
Absolutely. Many thanks to you, Pallavi, for putting that into perspective for us. I'm also joined in by Mr. Tom Vadakkan of the BJP. Mr. Vadakkan, Pallavi Ghosh, my senior political editor, was very rightly pointing out that the lines between North and South are now gradually blurring. So as far as, talking about Hindi not being a national link language, does this argument even make sense at a time like this?
Well, Pallavi is right, because I think that line is fast disappearing. I mean, I come from the southern belt and I speak Hindi, and Pallavi comes from West Bengal and she also speaks Hindi. It's not about Hindi being imposed on anybody. Language is something which is a celebration of life. You learn the culture of that area, and then you emulate the traditions, and then you do that with Tamil, you do that with Kannada. My son is in Karnataka, he's learned Kannada. And now everybody is there learning languages. It's also a celebration of life. It is about communication with the people. So it's not as if one language is imposed on anybody. You are welcome to learn any language. You're welcome to celebrate in any language. And I did hear this Bollywood and the southern film industry. I mean, I think that divide is also very strange, because I think all the Hindi films are doing well. So is the southern films doing extremely well in North India and in Hindi. So a point here is, I think we create these artificial barriers, north, south, east, west. Nothing of that sort exists. We Indians are one. We communicate with each other. We do business. We celebrate each other's festivals. That is the integrity and credibility of free India.
Many thanks to you, Mr. Vadakkan, for sharing your valuable opinion. And with that, let's quickly move into some more breaking news.